Yeah.
All right, let's get to UTSA. UTSA AAC Media Day was on Monday and Tuesday up in Arlington. The media poll was released just before the second day started. They came in at number 2 in the media poll. They had 4 first-place votes. The Memphis Tigers had 23 first-place votes. Army got a first-place vote, which Jeff Munkin was really surprised over. I think he told me that somebody must have misclicked on their rankings website because he said they didn't deserve that. But anyway, I asked Oscar and Jamal and Jeff all about what being number 2 meant, and Oscar wasn't very happy about it. Take a listen.
The last 4 years we're 29-4 in conference. The last 4 years we've played for the right to go to the championship game the last week of the season every year. We were successful twice, and we won it twice. We're 23-3 at home. That's why we're ranked number 2 this year in this preseason poll. It sure beats the heck out when I got the job. We were picked last or next to last. We had nobody on the preseason all-conference team.
Second's pretty good. I mean, I guess that's a little disrespect. I mean, I'd say that we showed what we can do for last season. This second season, I'd say we're vets now. So I will say Memphis is a really good team, so I understand why they did that. But it's going to be hard to beat us at home, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Oscar and too pleased with number 2. To me, it looks like this conference is wide open. And Luis, you can throw up those rankings real quick if you want. To me, the conference is wide open. Tulane lost their head coach. They lost their star quarterback, Michael Pratt. He's now in the NFL. SMU, the past conference champion from last year, now gone. So this conference is basically ripe for the picking. Plus, you factor in that this is the first tangible, real chance that a team from the American Athletic Conference can make the college football playoff. They have all the motivation in the world to do it. The question is, can they? So, I mean, what do you guys think about the number 2 ranking?
That's probably where it should be. Memphis should be number 1. They have $25 million from FedEx and NIL money. Their quarterback's making over $1 million a year. They've bought some really good players. They were good last year. UTSA has gotten deeper, and I think there's a big hole at quarterback. We don't know yet, but everywhere else, these guys have been in the program. The transfers, from what I hear, Denver Harris is NFL prospect. You know, he's had some issues other places. But Jeff loves his team, loves his offensive line. And, you know, he said we should be 6-1 when we face Memphis, with the only loss being to Texas.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. If they're going to go to the playoff, they got to upset Texas, and Texas has to run the rest of the table.
I don't know if they have to upset Texas.
They have to play them really close,
They have to play them close
and then win the rest. I think the playoff is still a pipe dream for a team from that conference.
I think they are ranked probably where they should be. I think it's quite an honor, given the teams in the league and how big that league is, that somebody, not just people from San Antonio, think enough of them to put them as high as they have. And I also like the fact that Oscar was a little pissed off about that.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's cool that he thinks that the expectation is higher than being, you know, the dark horse and all this for some way, shape, or form. But, you know, because, I mean, you're thinking, you know, wouldn't North Texas feel like they got slighted somewhere in all
They're like
this?
ninth?
Yeah, or close to that, 8th or 9th or somewhere in there. You know, there's some other schools where you think, okay, well, I wouldn't necessarily go to sleep on some of these schools in here. And I also think, too, you know, it's going to be tough, man. This is a tough little league. I mean, it's going to be a fist fight, I think, each and every week. And if they come out of it on the other side somehow unscathed, then, yeah, I think they will have earned the right to get to a playoff. But, again, that's going to be more difficult and more it's going to be easier said than done. I mean, especially with their schedule, non-conference, away early on the road. I mean, Jeff talked about this the other day about, you know, he wishes he had more road games backloaded towards the end of the year so he could allow his younger quarterbacks to grow up in an environment where UTSA's had a lot of success in the Alamo Dome. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch, but pretty cool too this time of year. You know, gives us something else to talk about.
I'll raise my hand. I didn't vote him first in the poll. I put him at number 2. I put Memphis at 1.
That's where they should be.
And that's because I think that's where they belong right now, because you have the entire storyline or cloud hanging over the program of what happens post Frank Harris. Nobody knows how Owen McCown is going to play. Nobody knows how Eddie Lee Marburger is going to play. Jeff told us multiple times, like, we're lucky that kind of lucky that Frank was hurt a little bit last year because both of them got to play 6 quarters of actual football. But 6 quarters of actual football is a lot different than being named the unquestioned number one starting quarterback. Like, you had Frank for so many years, and you had his leadership, his motivation, his outstanding quarterback play, and you had Rashad on the defense so many years
Well
for
said.
his outstanding leadership ability and his vocal I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you had the intangibles from those guys. And now you don't have them.
And
I'm so curious to see how they're going to react and play now and lead now without those two guys.
And you had the ability, other than what Frank did, the ability to make the play. The play. Zakari reaching out on 4th down. If it's not an inch short, the game's over. Oscar with the one-handed catch over the middle against North Texas. The tipped ball by the linebacker that falls into Oscar's hands to win the division. I mean, I don't know if it's luck, but the ball bounced their way a lot of times to be 29-3 or whatever they are at home.
You know what Kenny Powers said about luck, right?
It's when preparation meets opportunity.
No, that luck is the crutch of the talentless.
Speaking of the post-Frank era, let's hear the last soundbite we have right now. Luis, you have it? SAC post-Frank? All right, let's hear that one real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
I tell everybody that I'm more of an internal guy for leadership-wise, so I need to be a little bit more external for them, and I'm going to do the best that I can. Frank and Rashad were really good leaders, and I want to be just like them.
There's no doubt those guys were monumental for what they did. And they should have statues built. I mean, honestly, they're that important. It's also what's fun about coaching is trying to develop the next guys and who's going to be in the zeros.
I think it's got a lot to do with our culture. We have a standard, and no matter who you are, when you're at UTSA, we kind of hold everybody to that standard. You know what I'm saying?
They know, they understand it, and we've got guys that are willing and ready, and I'm excited to show them off soon.
Coach is excited to get his guys on the field, but
he loves his squad, man.
He really does, and it's going to be the other thing is it's not just Frank and Rashad. Joshua Cephas is gone. You have the entire previous era, the wave of players that came in with Jeff or that he kind of inherited from his first 4 years. It's gone now. The only one left over is Oscar and JT Clark, who, God, I hope he makes a recovery and is able to get back on the field because
we're all pulling for that.
That kid is amazing.
I think to your point, every coach wants to have at some point a player-led team, right? Well, Traylor certainly had that over the last couple years, but every year teams go through this. Maybe UTSA hasn't had these challenges in the past, but there are always voids or vacuums that have to be filled every single year. I would imagine somebody is going to rise up and fill, or at least, soothe over the gap between, what was Frank Harris and Rashad Wisdom into, another entity. Every team's going to look different every single year. I have a feeling there's enough clout in that locker room that somebody's going to recognize an opportunity, and it's probably more than one guy. Maybe it takes 3 guys to fill Frank's role on the offensive side, and maybe it takes 2 or 3 on the defensive side from Rashad.
Yeah, they've got some hosses. I mentioned Denver Harris, but Jamori Robinson played a lot last year. He's a Power 5 body. He's a big stud. NFL teams are looking at him. Joe Evans. They've got bodies, and they've got.
Speaking of Joe Evans, sorry to interrupt. Did you hear what Jeff said about what they offered him? What another school offered him?
$700,000.
$675,000. Somebody offered him an NIL money to leave UTSA, and he stayed.
I know who it was too.
Who was it?
I probably shouldn't say.
Well, the year before, Oregon offered Frank $1 million.
Yeah,
and Frank, to his credit, he didn't go beating his chest around saying he could have done that. And other than to say that I wasn't raised like that, he was getting plenty here. And that's why Frank will be mayor of our city, hopefully someday.
And it speaks to the culture that they have here in San Antonio and how much they love each other.
And to what, Frank's all about and where he got that from too, mom and dad.
Yeah.
So.
Last thing on UTSA, Jeff also said that they have to do better in September to make the playoff because they've historically been really, really, really good in conference play. But they do not start fast. And this year, if you want to make the playoff, you have to be 11-1 probably, with your only loss coming to a close Texas, if you want to be anywhere near the playoff. So they all know that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we have some 17-14, some 2014 games to start the season, maybe against Texas State with that defense leading
Texas
the way.
State could beat them, man.
Don't go to sleep on Texas State.
Texas
now.
State could beat them. I'm telling y'all that
No,
right now.
100%. They're rated higher in the NCAA game,
I don't
too.
know.
So.
You know, Matt, if you look across the board in college football, I mean, there are a lot of great non-conference games to start the year. I don't know how much of an impact the first part of the season is going to have at the very end of the season, just based on, I mean, A&M opens up with Notre Dame. Texas is opening, has Michigan right up there towards the. I mean, there are a lot of really great non-conference games that, win them great. You're off to a great start, but I don't think it's going to be the end-all be-all this year based on these powerful schedules that it seems like everybody's playing. Now.
Even if they start like 1-3, like they did. When was that? Last year or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. But I'm talking about as far as making the playoff. If you start 1-3, you're out of the playoff. Like, it's just not going to happen for you. Like SMU last year didn't make the playoff because they were one behind Liberty. They were 11-2. They won their conference. They went undefeated in conference, but they lost to Oklahoma and TCU. So you're getting penalized for scheduling.
You can't lose to
those
Texas State and end up in the playoff.
You can't lose to Texas State. You can't lose
But
to
you can
Army
still-
like they did last year.
You can still have a
lose those
successful
games.
season.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And they could still win the conference. They just wouldn't make the college football
Yeah.
playoff. And that's what I'm saying is, like, it's the first time you have a tangible chance to make the playoff. And their eyes are set on it.
Okay, good for them.
They've talked about it.
Good for them.
Let's get to the trivia answer. We're going to skip Olympic basketball because we're already a little long. So let's get to the trivia answer. Again, the trivia question is, Team USA is 143-6 in Olympic play since 1936. Who is the only team to beat them twice?
Okay, and you're saying that the Soviet Union could have beaten them once and Russia could have beaten them once.
Correct. It is separated. They've lost 6 games to 5 different opponents.
Okay, they've lost to the Soviet Union in 72.
Which they shouldn't have lost.
They lost to Lithuania in 88. They lost to Argentina in 04, which means they had to have other losses in 2000 and in 96, but ended up winning the gold, which means those had to have been in pool
I feel
play.
like we're getting a trig deal out of this.
Those had to have been in pool play. So the only team that beat them twice is either Russia or Lithuania.
I'll say Soviet Union.
I'll say Lithuania.
Okay. Any other guesses?
Nobody.
You want to guess?
I have no idea.
Your diatribe here is wrong.
Okay.
They lost in 1972 to Soviet Union. They lost 3 times in 2004 to Argentina, to Lithuania, and to Puerto Rico. And then they lost in 2020 to Nigeria. So their only other loss, their 6th loss, was in 1988 to the Soviet Union. So
Soviet Union?
Yes.
In 88?
Correct. So Soviet Union beat them twice, and that is the answer to our
Way to
trivia
go,
question.
Chuck.
That's all right.
Soviet Union.
They won the basketball game a couple times, but we took down the wall without firing a shot. That was pretty cool. I like that. So we
Mr.
won. We
Gorbachev.
technically won World War III already.
72
so
they won.
take
That was a complete
Soviets.
hose
Oh,
job.
okay. I mean, 72 they should have won the gold medal. I don't think I still think they haven't accepted their gold
That
or
is-
their silver medals
That is
for that
correct.
year.
That is correct.
Yeah, Doug Collins will never.
None of them will.
No.
Yeah, Doug Collins, one of the best players on that team, will never. Will go to his dying day not having that silver medal because they should have won that game.
All of them.
Yeah,
They're
100%.
all in a vault in Switzerland.
I should take the silver now, though, because if the price of silver goes up,
One of the guys on the
I don't
team.
think
know
they
what
need the
you're gonna
money there,
have.
Chuck.
One of the guys on the team, Kenny, whatever his name is, he has it in his will that his children are never to accept
Really?
the silver medal.
I didn't know that.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. The Olympics this year, I was going to use that to lead us into the Olympics. We just don't have time for it today. So we'll talk about the Olympics a little bit on Monday. We got a lot of stuff going on. Football is officially back. This is the main football podcast today. So I'm into it. I love football. So let's do it. That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Don's already taking his headphones off.
I can't believe they lost 3 games in one Olympics. I didn't realize that. 04. Tim Duncan, shame on you.
Hey, man, this is what I'm coming here to educate
It
everybody.
happens, man. It's competition, right?
We'll see you guys back here on Monday.
Timmy's famous line.